Let me tell you something. Sometimes the silence between you and that man is louder than any conversation you ever had. Sometimes it's not about what he says, but what he doesn't say. Not about the text that shows up, but the one that never comes. And when you sit there staring at your phone, wondering why he hasn't texted, I want you to breathe and understand, baby, it's not because he doesn't feel anything. It's because he feels too much and doesn't know what to do with it. See, a man can act tough. He can move around like he's got it all figured out. But when a woman gets inside his head, inside his peace, inside that quiet space where he hides from the world, it shakes him in ways even he can't explain. He'll pick up his phone, type your name, then backspace. Not because he's playing games, but because his emotions are wrestling with his pride. His heart wants to reach out, but his ego whispers, don't do it. Keep your power. Act like you're fine. And in that war between emotion and ego, text messages become battlegrounds he doesn't know how to walk through. Now listen, when a man wants to text you so bad but can't, that's not a lack of interest. That's the presence of fear, fear of being seen, fear of being vulnerable, fear of losing the control he's used to having. Because deep down, most men aren't taught how to communicate what they feel. They're taught to fix, to solve, to provide, but not to express. And when you become the woman who awakens emotions, he can't name it, confuses him. He starts to feel things he hasn't felt in years. He starts to think about forever instead of tonight. And that scares the man who's used to temporary people. That shakes the man who's used to being the strong one, because now he's dealing with something deeper. Now he's dealing with you. He sits in his car replaying your laughter, thinking about how you looked at him that last time, how you made him feel like he could exhale for once. And then he thinks, if I text her, will she think I'm weak? Will she think I'm desperate? Will she use it against me? Because somewhere in his past, he tried opening up and got hurt. Somewhere along the way, he learned that silence is safer than vulnerability. So he holds it in, hoping that maybe you'll reach out first. Maybe you'll give him that little sign that it's safe to care again. And when you don't, he pretends he's okay. He buries himself in work, in distractions, in noise. But every song reminds him of you. Every quiet moment becomes your echo. And he feels that tug in his chest, that voice that says, text her, and that other voice that says, don't. Because he knows that if he starts typing, his feelings will spill out in ways he can't take back. And let me tell you, when a man is truly attached, his silence isn't rejection, it's resistance. Resistance against his own emotions. Resistance against the softness that's trying to break through. Because love isn't something he can control, and control is what he's built his identity on. But you came into his world like a gentle storm, not loud, but powerful, not demanding, but undeniable. You shifted his energy, and now every time he thinks of you, it hits different. You're not like the others who just wanted attention. You wanted connection. You wanted truth. And that truth scares him because it means he has to show up as his real self. Not the man the world told him to be, but the man his soul actually is. So when he doesn't text, don't think he forgot you. Understand that sometimes he's sitting there wishing he had the courage to tell you that he misses you, that he replays your conversations, that he checks your social media, but stops himself from liking anything because he doesn't want you to know how deep you still are in his mind. That he scrolls through old messages just to feel close to you, that he types paragraphs and erases them before sending because he doesn't know if he deserves your peace again, that he's hoping you somehow feel his energy even when words fail him. See, when a man is falling for you, it's not the same as when a woman falls. We fall with openness, but he falls in silence. He falls through actions, through consistency, through hesitation, through confusion. He wants to protect his heart, but also wants to hand it to you. And that duality drives him crazy. He doesn't want to look weak, but he doesn't want to lose you. He doesn't want to seem needy, but he can't stop thinking about you. And he doesn't want to text first, but he can't stop checking if you've texted him. And that right there is where most people misunderstand love. They think silence means disinterest, but sometimes silence is love fighting its own fear. And I know you might be sitting there thinking, if he really wanted me, he would. And yes, sometimes that's true. But baby, love isn't always logical. Sometimes his heart is louder than his hands. Sometimes his soul is ready, but his mind isn't. Because attachment isn't just attraction, it's vulnerability. And vulnerability isn't natural for a man who's had to build walls just to survive. So he hides behind humor, behind detachment, behind that cool text that says he's busy, but deep down, he's checking his phone like crazy, hoping your name pops up, hoping you still care. And that's why you can't take every silence personally. You've got to learn to read the energy, not just the words, because real attachment lives in energy. It's in the pauses, in the glances, in the way he remembers the smallest things you said. It's in how he looks for you in the crowd without realizing it. It's in how he tries to distract himself with other people, but keeps comparing them to you. It's in the way his friends tease him when your name comes up and he smiles without meaning to. It's in how he talks about you in past tense, but hopes the story isn't over yet. Now, I'm not saying you wait forever. I'm saying don't confuse his hesitation with indifference. Sometimes a man is processing, he's trying to figure out how to come correct. He's trying to become the version of himself he thinks you deserve. He's sitting there wondering if he can be enough, wondering if you'll still be there if he takes too long, wondering if this time love will stay, because the last time he gave his heart, it didn't end well. And now he's scared to text you, not because he doesn't care, but because caring too much cost him peace before. So he's walking carefully through the memory of his mistakes, hoping not to make them again. And when he finally does text you, it might sound casual, but trust me, that text took courage. That simple, hey, or how you been, came from a place of humility, from a place where pride had to step aside for peace, where fear had to lose to feeling. And in that small message is everything he couldn't say out loud, everything he's been holding back for nights he couldn't sleep. For days he acted fine. For moments he told himself he didn't care. But your name kept echoing in his chest until he couldn't hold it anymore. That's not just a text. That's a confession in disguise. And here's the truth. When a man wants to text you so bad but can't, it means he's attached beyond his comfort zone. You've reached a part of him that logic can't touch. You've made him question the things he thought he understood about connection. You've shown him that emotional chemistry isn't something you plan. It's something that happens. And once it does, it doesn't fade. It lingers, it grows, it teaches, it humbles, it heals. And that's why he's fighting it. Because real connection forces change. And change is uncomfortable, especially for a man who thought he was fine until you came along. But don't let his silence make you doubt your worth. You were the spark, not the problem. You were the calm that made him feel safe and the truth that made him nervous. And right now, even if he's not saying it, he's feeling it. that pull, that ache, that longing to reach out, but not knowing how. And sometimes you've just got to let the energy speak louder than the ego. Let the connection breathe. Because if it's real, he'll circle back. Not when you chase, but when you choose peace over panic. Because nothing drives a man crazier than a woman who stays grounded when he's confused. A woman who knows her value without demanding validation. A woman who's not trying to prove she's the one, but lives like she already is. So hold your peace, not your phone. Let him figure it out. Because the truth is, he already knows who you are to him. He just needs time to admit it. And when that moment comes, he'll text, not just because he misses you, but because he's ready to match your energy, ready to step into what's real, ready to say with his actions what words never could. And when that happens, you'll know that silence wasn't the end of the story. It was just the pause before the confession, the hesitation before the breakthrough, the quiet before the message that says everything he's been too afraid to say out loud. And when you read it, you'll smile not because he finally texted, but because deep down you always knew he wanted to. When a man wants to text you but doesn't, it's not because he stopped caring, it's because he's scared that one message could expose how deeply he still feels you in his soul. When a man is emotionally tied to you, it's not always loud, it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's in the pauses, the hesitation, the small things you don't see. He sits there with his phone in his hand, typing your name into the search bar, reading old conversations, feeling that wave of nostalgia hit him. And then he locks his screen because his pride whispers, "Don't you dare." He goes back and forth between emotion and ego. And even though he wants to text you so bad, he can't find the words that won't make him vulnerable. He's not ignoring you. He's protecting himself from the kind of truth that undresses his defenses. See, men aren't taught to handle emotions the way women are. He was raised to be strong, to be in control, to never look desperate. So when he starts missing you, it confuses him. It makes him feel like he's losing grip on himself. And that's when the battle begins. He wants to reach out, but he doesn't want to feel exposed. He wants connection, but fears rejection. He wants peace, but his ego tells him to stay silent. He replays your last conversation in his head, wondering if he said too much or too little. He overthinks what went wrong. Even if nothing really did, he wonders if you've moved on, if someone else makes you laugh. Now he tries to convince himself he's fine. He tells his friends he's over it. But late at night, that's when the truth shows up, because silence has a way of amplifying emotion. He checks your profile more times than he'll ever admit. He looks for signs that you still care. Maybe a post, maybe a quote, maybe a song lyric that feels familiar. And if he sees it, he smiles for a second. And then the doubt creeps in. He wonders if it's about him or someone new. And that thought hurts more than he'll say. He wants to text you and say, "I miss you," but he doesn't want to sound weak. He wants to ask how you're doing, but doesn't want to seem like he's still attached. And yet every time his phone vibrates, his heart skips, hoping it's you. And that's the crazy part, because he's trying to heal while still hoping you'll reach out first. He's trying to convince himself it's over while secretly praying for a sign he's stuck in between his heart that still wants you and his mind, that's telling him to move on. And that's a heavy place to be, because love never leaves quietly. It lingers. It hums underneath the noise of his daily life. It sneaks into moments when he least expects it. It's in that random song that plays in the car. It's in that cologne you once complimented that he still wears without realizing. Why, it's in the silence before he falls asleep, when his thoughts slow down and your name drifts through his memory again. He wants to text you, not because he's bored, not because he's lonely, but because there's a space in his world that only you feel the softness he can't recreate with anyone else he remembers. Your laughter, the way you said his name, the peace you carried, and he misses it. He misses the way you made him feel like he could be himself without judgment. But he also remembers how vulnerable that made him feel. And that's what stops him every single time. See, vulnerability is terrifying for a man who's used to being in control, for a man who's built his life on logic. Emotions make no sense. He can handle pressure bills, deadlines, but emotions, they're a different kind of weight. They're unpredictable. They remind him he's human. They remind him he can still hurt. So he hides behind silence, thinking maybe if he waits long enough, the feelings will fade. But they don't. They just shift. They turn into curiosity, into longing, into quiet moments of reflection. And the truth is, he's not trying to move on from you. He's trying to move on from the part of himself that can't forget you. He wants to stop wondering what if, but every time he tries, life throws a reminder of you in his path. And he feels that pull again, that invisible thread that connects two people, even when they're apart. It's in the way his heart reacts when he hears your name in conversation. It's in how he remembers your birthday without needing a reminder. It's in the way he compares other connections to what he had with you without meaning to. And deep down, he knows you were different. You weren't just another chapter. You were the story that made sense, even when nothing else did. And that's why he wants to text you so bad, because part of him still believes that maybe there's more to write. Maybe it's not over. Maybe the universe is just asking for a pause, not a goodbye. But his fear whispers louder. What if she doesn't feel the same? What if she's happier now? What if I open up and she's already gone? And that's what keeps his fingers from hitting send. He tells himself it's better to stay silent than to risk another heartbreak. And in doing so, he ends up breaking his own heart slowly. He'll scroll through your old pictures pretending he's just curious. But it's more than that. He's trying to reconnect with the feeling he's lost, because you weren't just a person, you were an energy. And once someone feels genuine energy, they can't unfeel it. It lingers in their soul. It leaves fingerprints on their spirit. And that's exactly what you did. You reached a place inside him that no one else touched. And now every time he tries to forget, he ends up remembering even more. He sees your reflection in little things, in habits he picked up from you, in the way he phrases certain words, in the way he still listens to that song you loved. He doesn't realize it, but you became a part of his rhythm. He wants to text you because he misses that rhythm, but he's scared that if he reaches out and you don't respond, the illusion of still being connected will break completely. He'd rather keep the hope alive than face the finality of silence. He'd rather imagine you still think of him than risk confirming you don't. And that's what attachment does. It traps you in possibilities. It keeps you tied to what could be, even when what was is already gone. And yet something in him keeps believing maybe there's still a chance. Maybe timing will fix what distance couldn't. Maybe love doesn't end. It just changes form. And in that hope, he finds both comfort and pain. And you might not see it, but he's growing through that silence. He's learning what it means to feel. Deeply, he's realizing that real connection isn't about constant communication. It's about emotional presence. It's about how someone stays with you long after they're gone. And that's what you did. You stayed in his spirit. And now he's trying to figure out how to live with that. Because once a man meets a woman who awakens his soul, every other connection feels incomplete. And that's the truth. No distraction can compete with emotional depth. No new person can erase the memory of real energy, and no amount of silence can fully disconnect souls that met in truth. He wants to text you because part of him hopes you feel it too. He hopes you're thinking about him at the same time he's thinking about you. He hopes maybe you'll send that simple message that gives him permission to speak freely again. And even though he acts like he's over it, like he's focused on himself, like he's detached, his heart knows he's still attached, because emotional connection doesn't fade with distance. It matures with silence. And that's the part he doesn't understand. He thought love was something he could turn off like a switch. But this feels different. This feels divine. This feels like something he's not supposed to run from, but he's still learning how to stay. He replays what he'd say if he texted you. Maybe something simple like, "Hey, how have you been?" But behind that casual message would be pages of unspoken words. "I miss you. I'm sorry. I still care." He's scared. Those words will come out if you respond. He's scared that once he starts talking to you again, all the emotions he buried will rise to the surface and he won't be able to stop them. And that's why he hesitates, because attachment doesn't make him weak. It makes him human, and vulnerability makes him uncomfortable because it means losing control of the image he built. And that's the hardest thing for a man to do. Admit that someone touched him deeply enough to change him. And that's why when he doesn't text you, it doesn't mean he doesn't care. It means he's battling himself. It means he's trying to balance his need for connection with his fear of rejection. It means he's stuck in that space where he wants to move on but can't. It means your energy still lives in him in a way he can't explain. And that's something you don't beg for. You let him sit in it. You let him feel it. Because when a man truly feels a woman's absence, that's when he realizes her worth. When he's alone with his thoughts, when he's scrolling through conversations, when he sees your name and his heart skips, that's when the truth hits him. She was different. She was peace. She was real. And eventually, when he's ready, when the fear gets quiet and the love gets loud, he'll text not because he's lonely, but because he can't hold it anymore. He'll reach out, not because he needs attention, but because he's ready to face what he ran from. And that moment will be raw. It will be honest. It will be the truth he's been carrying since the silence began. And even if nothing comes from it, you'll know one thing. You left a mark on his soul deep enough to make him feel you in every quiet moment since. And that's something no distance, no ego, and no pride can erase. Because real connection doesn't end, it just waits for alignment. Sometimes he wants to text you so bad that it actually hurts not to. He stares at the screen watching your name light up in his mind like a ghost. That won't fade away. He scrolls through his contacts a dozen times, pretending he's just looking for something else. But every time his eyes find your name, his heart skips, because that name carries memories, laughter, late night conversations. And that energy he can't replace. He types something simple, "Hey," or "What's up?" And then he erases it because it sounds too small for what he really wants to say. He wants to tell you he misses your voice, your peace, your energy. He wants to tell you that no matter what he's done or said, you're still the one person he feels safest with. But then pride shows up, whispering, "Don't you dare look weak." And so he locks the phone again, pretending he's fine when he's not. He tells himself he's busy. He throws himself into work. He surrounds himself with friends, laughter, noise, distractions, but it doesn't last because silence always finds him again. Silence always brings your memory back. And that's when it hits the hardest. When everything gets quiet. When there's nothing left to distract his thoughts. That's when your presence fills the room. That's when he remembers how you used to talk him down. When life felt heavy, how you could calm him with a single word, how you could make him laugh even when he didn't want to smile. He remembers those moments and feels that ache again, that pull that tells him you're still somewhere deep inside him. And it confuses him because men like to think they can move on fast. They like to believe they can shut feelings off like a switch. But real connection doesn't disappear. It lingers. It echoes in the empty spaces of his day. It whispers your name when he least expects it. He wants to text you because he misses that emotional safety, that comfort, that peace. But he's scared because what if you don't feel the same? What if you've moved on? What if he reaches out and you leave him on scene? He replays those thoughts again and again, and the fear keeps winning over the feeling. He tells himself, it's better to keep quiet than to risk rejection. But deep down, he knows silence is its own kind of pain. Silence is heavy because it's filled with everything left unsaid. He doesn't tell anyone this, but sometimes he scrolls through your old texts just to feel something familiar. Again, he reads the jokes, the heart emojis, the late night good nights. And for a moment, it feels like you're still there. And then reality hits again. And that's when the guilt shows up because he wonders if he was the reason you left, if he took you for granted, if he made you feel unseen. He replays old moments trying to find the one where it went wrong. He remembers how you used to look at him, how your eyes spoke louder than words. He remembers the way he believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. And now he misses that kind of faith because not everyone gives that. Not everyone brings that kind of energy into your life. The kind that makes you want to become better, the kind that makes you want to grow. He misses the way you made ordinary moments feel special, the way your presence brought warmth into his chaos. And even though he won't admit it, he knows he hasn't felt that with anyone else. He's tried to replace it with distractions, with temporary connections, with meaningless conversations, but none of them feel like you. None of them touch his spirit the way you did. And the truth is, he's scared not just of rejection, but of vulnerability. He's scared that if he texts you, all those emotions will flood back stronger than before. He's scared of what they'll mean. He's scared of admitting that he still cares. Because once he admits that he has to face the truth, that he never stopped caring in the first place, that the love he thought he buried is still alive. And that scares him because he doesn't know how to handle emotions like that. Men aren't taught to process feelings. They're taught to hide them, to distract themselves, to move on without healing. And that's what he's been trying to do. Move on without healing. But love has a way of humbling even the strongest souls. He wants to text you not just because he misses you, but because he wants to feel seen again. He wants to feel that connection that made him feel human again, because somewhere along the way, life hardened him, but you softened him, and that scared him too, because you made him feel something real, and real is rare. And when a man finds something real, it shakes him. It forces him to look at himself. It forces him to confront parts of him he's been avoiding for years. And that's what you did. You awakened something he didn't know existed. And now even in your absence, he feels it like a shadow that follows him everywhere he goes. He wants to text you because he's tired of pretending he doesn't care, tired of lying to himself, tired of acting like you were just another name in his story, because you weren't. You were the chapter that made him grow, the one that showed him what love could be when it's pure, And now that you're gone, he's realizing how rare that is. He's realizing that love isn't about control or winning. It's about peace and presence and partnership. And he's realizing that you gave him that, but he wasn't ready to receive it. And now that he's finally starting to understand it, you're gone. And that's the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes you only understand love when it's out of reach. He wants to text you and say, I get it now. I understand what you were trying to show me. I understand why you walked away. I understand that you weren't asking for too much. You were asking for the right things. You were asking for effort, consistency, honesty, presence. And he couldn't give it then because he didn't even know how to give it to himself. And now that he's learning, he wishes he could share that version of himself with you, but he doesn't know if it's too late. So he stays quiet, hoping that maybe somehow the universe will bring you two back around when the timing is right. But he also knows life doesn't always work like that. Sometimes timing doesn't fix everything. Sometimes the lesson is to grow without the person who taught you how. He sits there scrolling through his phone, thinking maybe if he texts you, it'll ease the ache. But deep down, he knows no message can undo the distance that's been created, because texting isn't about words, it's about connection. And that connection is something sacred, something fragile, something that requires both hearts to be open. And he's not sure if yours still is. He's not sure if his pride will let him find out. And that's where he's stuck halfway between courage and fear, between healing and holding on, between wanting to speak and choosing to stay silent, because silence feels safer, even though it hurts more, because silence doesn't risk rejection, but it also doesn't bring peace. And the craziest thing is he checks his phone more than you think he checks it after work, before bed in the morning, hoping maybe you'll reach out first, hoping maybe he'll see your name light up on his screen, and then he won't have to be the one to break the silence. He'll tell himself, if she texts first, I'll reply right away. I'll say everything I wanted to say, but you don't. And that hurts too, because in his mind, he still believes there's a thread connecting you two, a thread that time and distance can't cut. And every time he feels that pull, he knows you're still with him in spirit. And that's both comforting and painful, because it means he's not over you, but he's also not with you. He wants to text you because there are things he never got to say. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry for my pride. I miss the peace you brought into my life. He wants to say those things, but he's scared that if he opens that door, he won't know how to close it again. He's scared that the emotions he's kept locked away will pour out uncontrollably, because he never truly processed losing you. He just suppressed it, and suppression doesn't heal. It just hides the pain temporarily until it surfaces again. And that's where he's at, feeling everything he tried to bury coming back up stronger than before, because emotions never die. They wait for silence to bring them back. And even though he doesn't text you, you still cross his mind in the most random moments, when he sees your favorite drink at a cafe, when he hears a song you love, when someone says something that reminds him of your humor. And in those moments, he smiles and then sighs, because he knows those small reminders mean something. It means your energy still lingers. It means your presence is still part of his world, even if your physical connection isn't. And that's what attachment does. It weaves two souls together in a way that distance can't erase. And even when the mind tries to forget, the heart remembers the feeling and the body remembers the peace. He wants to text you because his soul still feels safe with yours, but he's scared that maybe your soul has already moved on. Maybe you found your own peace. Maybe you've healed past the point of looking back, and he doesn't want to disturb that. He doesn't want to reopen wounds that finally close, so he convinces himself that silence is respect, even though deep down is fear. He tells himself, you deserve peace. And maybe that's true, but a part of him still wishes he could be part of that peace again, because he remembers the version of himself that existed with you. A softer version, a calmer version, a version that believed in love. And now he's trying to find that version again without you. He wants to text you because he still feels that connection in his chest, that invisible pull that doesn't fade. No matter how hard he tries to ignore it, he feels it when he's alone, when he's driving, when he's sitting in silence. He feels your presence, and he wonders if you feel his too. He wonders if you ever pick up your phone thinking about him. He wonders if you ever stop yourself from texting because you think he's moved on. He wonders if maybe you're mirroring the same hesitation he's feeling. And that's what hurts the most. The not knowing, the uncertainty, the what ifs that never go away, because when emotions are real, they don't end. They just evolve. And maybe one day he'll text you. Maybe one day he'll decide that